Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host Connor McCabe, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life. It's a podcast about what makes video games special to different people. And a little bit of housekeeping up top is that anything that my guest or I plug on the show today, you'll be able to scroll down and find those gorgeous links in the show notes wherever you're listening. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can scroll down in the episode notes, or on Apple Podcasts, just go to the episode and you'll find a link, whether it's, to a social media handle, to a Patreon. Who knows what we're going to have in those show notes, but you can find those links there. That'll do it for the housekeeping, and I'll introduce my guest for today's episode. So please welcome video game content creator and New York Mets diehard Kelsey Lewin. Kelsey, welcome to the show.
Hello. I think this is my first time ever being introduced by my Mets fandom, and I'm kind of proud.
I'm glad. I kind of have a tendency to do that. I'm realizing now my last guest is a huge Giants fan, and I definitely introduced her something to do with the Giants. So I think when I know someone loves a sports team, especially baseball being like my personal favorite, I'm like, okay, easy connection point, and that's how I'm labeling you.
Yeah. Okay, I love it.
Yeah. It's so great to have you on the show today. I've been aware of you for a long time as a content creator on the internet, but recently, to give a little peek behind the curtain, as you know, I saw that you were following the show on Blue Sky, and as someone who enjoys your work a lot, I was like, I've got to ask to see if she'll come on the show sometime. So while we were in the process of figuring that out, then coincidentally, we got to meet in person at a good friend's wedding, and here we are actually recording on mic.
Yeah, and it was so funny because it took me a minute to connect those dots.
Yes.
When you're talking to someone on the internet, it's like, it's not the same person as the person who's in front of you.
Yes.
Sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, so I felt a little bad because I was like, oh, yeah, we're literally already talking. Right.
Yes. I mean, that happens, especially when, it's not like we had just been messaging. That happens so often when you're both not familiar with how each other looks and sounds.
Right.
It almost gets into kind of like it's kind of a parasocial thing too when you're familiar with people. I'm sure there's people you've known throughout your career where then you met them and had a similar thing. But yeah, such a funny coincidence. We got to meet and hang out. It was so much fun. But there's so much more that you could probably share about yourself with the listener. Who are you and what do you want people to know about you?
Well, first of all, I'm a huge Mets fan. No, beyond that, I co-own a handful of video game stores, 3 of which are in the Seattle area, 1 of which is in Las Vegas, called Pink Gorilla Games. That is my day job. That's what brings in the money. But I also am on the MinnMax show podcast. I host Pew Pew Bang, award-winning Pew Pew Bang, as of couple of days ago. We just found out we won the Best Game Podcast Award of the year from the Astro Awards, which is awesome. And yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of an all-rounder. I've been doing random stuff in and around the video game industry for a surprising amount of time at this point.
Yes. I don't know how you even... I don't know your history well enough to know how you got into that. How did you get involved in, I guess, video game work or content creation? Was it something that started as a hobby that then you turned into a job? Do you want to dive into that at all?
Yeah, totally randomly, honestly. So, gosh, how did it literally start? I think my partner and I at the time wanted to just talk about the games we were playing, and so like every person in the world, we started a little podcast. I ended up guesting on a couple of other podcasts, and it caught the attention of someone I had met and hung out around a couple of times, but wasn't, super close to, who goes by Metal Jesus Rocks online.
Yes.
He's a big retro game YouTuber. I should also mention, I was working at a retro video game store. I kind of moved to Seattle for college right around the time I turned 18, got a job there, and so that was what kind of drew me into that world. And so I was playing a lot of stuff for the first time that I had never played. I didn't have a Sega Genesis growing up, so I got a Sega Genesis and things like that, and found myself really enjoying learning about this stuff and talking about it at work and everything. So I ended up going on his name's Jason, but Metal Jesus' channel, gosh, I don't even remember what the first thing I did was. It was maybe about Pokemon, because he's like 10 years older, so that's or maybe even more than that. So that's a weak spot for for him is this Pokemon, whereas it is exactly my generation. So I think I talked about Pokemon games and Pokemon collecting, and yeah, from there it just kind of snowballed. I just ended up kind of floating around a little bit and enjoying talking about things. I got really into the researching the history of games, and that was around the time I started my own channel. So I was really interested in video game history, but especially in the weird side of video game history. I love the intersection of video games and non-video game functions. So some of my favorite research topics I've done are like the Gluco Boy, which is a blood glucose monitor for the Game Boy, or we've got like the Famicom and Super Famicom modems, so very early connecting to the internet, mostly to do things like betting on horse races and banking and that sort of thing. Very like primitive uses of this stuff, and so I love that kind of slice of time where computers were still really expensive. Video game consoles were like kind of the cheapest computers that existed.
Yeah.
And so you had some people who would be like, can we use this video game thing as a computer actually instead of as a video game console? And you get some really weird stuff out of that. So I started a YouTube channel. I really loved the first 80% of making every video, and I hated editing, hated it. So as much as I still want to go back and do some more videos, or maybe write more books or something, it's actually, I didn't hate editing books, but I hate video editing.
Yes.
So that has put a damper on my YouTube career. But yeah, these days I pretty much just run the shops. I had a little bit of I had a pretty good stint with the Video Game History Foundation, working for them. Absolutely loved that work, loved the mission. But some of the videos you're talking about sound like a precursor to topics for sure.
that you did or would have done there.
Yeah, and I think that was sort of where my strength was. I was someone who was doing the research and finding it very difficult to research a lot of these things. And of course, the mission of the foundation was always to make that stuff easier and more accessible. And so, yeah, I mean, and here I am now. I think I just keep myself very busy.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of always trying new things and hopefully not being too much of a chaotic tornado that you spin a lot of plates too often. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a really fun little kind of rundown of like the origin of your journey up to like a little recap of what you've been up to most recently. We mentioned it too. I mean, it's going to come up on the show later, I'm sure, but you also wrote a book on Animal Crossing within was that the last year or 2 years you did that?
Yeah, oh gosh, I started it a long time ago, but I think it finally hit the shelves. It was probably like a year and a half ago now. So, yeah, because we definitely had plenty in stock for Christmas, and I think also had them at PAX the previous year. So if my memory serves, that's at least a year and a half. But yeah, and I'm eager to write another one, but I don't know about what. So
yeah, the topic.
Maybe I'll figure that out eventually.
Yeah, it'll present itself when you're ready. That's wonderful. Before we dive into or move on in the show, is there anything you want to plug while we're here and have people's attention up top?
Yeah, so the podcast that I host with 3 other women who are also on the MinnMax show is called Pew Pew Bang, and it's an all women hosts. We call it a video game slumber party. So the vibes are a little chaotic, a little crazy, but if that sounds like something that is up your alley, definitely go check it out, as well as the MinnMax show, which I adore being on. I'm not on every episode, but I love all the people I work with.
Both are absolutely great listens, and I think one thing that sticks out about both of those pods, especially Pew Pew Bang being sort of like an offshoot of the MinnMax crew with the 4 of you, is that what makes both shows so great is that it's the people who are so wonderful. Like, I've listened to plenty of video game podcasts throughout my life, and sometimes I grow not just tired of people, or people will kind of like rub me the wrong way. And I think the great thing about that community that you all have is just how wonderful and unique and sincere everybody is. So yeah, love those shows. I'll put a link to those in the show notes as well so that people can find them easily. We're about to talk about a little general synopsis of your history with gaming, but before we do, will you preview what we've brought on for the main event a little later and call me by your game?
Yeah, the game I've brought today is Animal Crossing Wild World, which is the DS Animal Crossing, the second one to come out in the US, sort of the second one total, depends on how you think about what constitutes the original Animal Crossing, but yeah.
Awesome.
Spent a lot of time with it.
I can't wait to get into that one. It's going to be a lot of fun hearing from you. But as far as your general history with games, when you think about some of your earliest memories, what comes to mind? This could be, you playing yourself or watching someone else.
So my family was not a very big video game family, but they were always fairly open to it. My dad traveled a lot for work, and so he, like Nintendo advertised to people, he got a Game Boy as something to do on the plane, with Tetris and Super Mario Land and baseball, because my dad is also a big baseball guy.
Yeah.
And he played baseball a little bit, played Tetris a little bit, but he didn't really actually want to play games very much, so that Game Boy became mine pretty quickly. I was probably only 4 years old.
Wow.
And so that was kind of my first introduction. I obviously wasn't very good at any of those games because I was a 4-year-old,
yeah.
but I liked it. I liked having this thing I carried around, and
are we talking having a little gray brick, the original?
The gray brick.
Wow.
That was my very first console. But that Christmas, I think the Christmas I was 5 maybe, or 6, whatever year that was, I got a Game Boy Color with Pokemon Blue.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of... Actually, no, I think I got Pokemon Yellow first. I can't remember. But the point is, I got Pokemon was like the first big thing that really... before I liked my Game Boy, but I also loved drawing, and I also loved playing softball or whatever, like other things a child does. But Pokemon really changed how I saw this entertainment medium. I mean, I was still drawing, but now I was drawing Pokemon, and yes. I was still writing, but now I was writing about Pokemon. So I just totally fell in love with that world and the creatures and everything, and kind of never looked back. I mean, I ended up getting a Nintendo 64 for my birthday a few years later. It was actually, I don't know if I've ever told my mom this, and I probably should, but I think it was the cutest birthday presentation that anyone has ever gotten. My mom bought me for my birthday the Toys R Us had a special edition gold Nintendo 64.
Oh, yes.
It was only sold at Toys R Us. It's a beautiful system. And I woke up the morning of my birthday, and there was a gold ribbon tied onto my bed frame. And I followed the ribbon all the way downstairs, all the way through the house into our basement. We lived in Detroit at the time, and we had a basement. And followed it all the way down to the TV in the basement right outside my dad's office, and there was, in gold wrapping paper, a gold Nintendo 64.
That is so cute.
Is it so
I could
cute?
Almost cry hearing that. That's so sweet. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. What a sweet little intricate breadcrumb trail essentially for you to follow.
It's a strange thing. Like, I don't have a lot of those memories that stick out like that. I don't have a ton of super vivid memories from childhood, but that one that really one was really sticks out. So bravo to my mom. And of course I had the classics. I had Mario Kart on it. I ended up getting Smash Brothers on it. Pokemon Snap was one of my favorite games, as well as both Pokemon Stadiums. Again, just huge Pokemon head at that time because I was of exactly the correct age to be full on Pokemania, what they were warning you about on the news.
Yes.
I was the obsessed child.
That's something that can make me feel like I'm. in a kind of an egotistical way, like, wow, we were such the center of the universe where no kids today don't understand what it was like to be there when it arrived and when it took over. Because I was also of the age where I think I was 8 years old when I got Pokemon Red. And it also, that and the cartoon and the cards changed everything for us. So what a special time. Yeah. Just complete mania. Like I said, I was living in Detroit at the time, and we actually lived in a suburb called Novi, which I don't... For whatever reason, Novi has one of the highest concentration of Japanese immigrants of any suburb in America, which is, obviously places like Hawaii and Seattle and stuff have pretty high concentrations too. But in the middle of Detroit, I had a lot of like Japanese schoolmates and stuff. So not only was I, being primed in this prime Pokemon audience and time and everything, but also my schoolmates were getting like Pokemon Silver already. They were showing me Pokemon that didn't exist yet. They were getting stickers and all this and Pokemon cards and everything from overseas. So I was like, for a very brief window of time, I was like an extremely cultured child in the ways of Pokemon. Yes. Oh my goodness. I can remember getting little hints of what was to come too. Never had quite a front row seat like you did, but that's amazing. Had a front row seat to Hamtaro too. My friends were showing me Hamtaro before Hamtaro came out here. So. Oh my gosh. I remember, cool childhood. Yeah, it really is. I remember the 2 weeks where my friend introduced me to that one summer, and wow, we got obsessed with that. I love hearing even just about your early journey as someone who enjoyed video games, of kind of having the original Game Boy falling into your lap and having Pokemon and the Game Boy Color really feel, maybe the way to describe it is that it felt like you had ownership over that, like that was yours and something that was really personal. Were you anticipating the N64 by that point? Were you kind of in games that much? Yeah, I think so. It's tough to remember. I know that I consumed everything I could about Pokemon, and so my guess is I knew about the N64 because there were Pokemon games coming out for the N64. Like, not because I was... I ended up getting, like, a Game Informer magazine subscription several years later, but at that point, it's not like I was reading Nintendo Power or anything like that. Like, I wasn't getting a steady diet of video game news. I just knew from my friends at school and, wherever else this information comes at children from in that age. I just knew there was more Pokemon out there to consume. Yes. And so that was the machine that had more Pokemon on it. That's great. Was gaming something for you that, at that age or afterwards, that was mostly something you did by yourself? Were you playing games with friends? Was that like a social thing for you? Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I think in the beginning it was mostly me and occasionally my parents, who again weren't super into it, but my parents both loved playing like some of the Pokemon Stadium mini games with me. Oh yeah. I know my mom helped me beat a couple of bosses in Kirby 64 when I was a kid, and things like that. It wasn't really until a few years later we moved to the Dallas, Texas area, and I was in a Girl Scout troop with what ended up being several very nerdy girls, which I loved. So that was when I started really consuming video games like alongside other people, as I was hanging out with these friends all the time. They had a PS1, a PS2. I was starting to be introduced to things like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. And I had seen a little bit of Final Fantasy before that because my cousin played it, but my cousin didn't live anywhere near me. So it was one of those like, at Christmas I might see glimpses of a game I've never heard of. But once I joined this Girl Scout troop, that was when I started, learning about other types of games and playing things with people. I also got really, really into DDR with both of them. Okay. And we were all incredible at DDR. Wow. We had a period of time around age 13 where if you went to the GameWorks at the Grapevine Mills Mall in Texas, you might have seen some 13-year-olds absolutely tearing up the... we played like the hardest songs on the hardest mode, and I was very in shape, and I can still read the notes pretty fast, actually. Yes. I can
but my legs do not physically move that fast anymore. So.
That's amazing. Gosh, that's a game that is constantly coming up in this segment for people as like a huge
Really?
touchstone.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. It every so often someone will bring it up. We've even had it's been over 4 years, but someone did a whole episode on DDR years ago too, and I love hearing that because it was something that I kind of just missed.
We practiced it like it was a sport. Like, go home after school and be like, okay, got to put in my reps on these hard songs, got to, like, do practice mode and everything. I mean, I tried harder on that than I did for any piano lesson, any softball game, anything
Yes.
I did, really.
That's amazing. After this sort of era, like, has gaming been something for you that has been just a consistent hobby, into, I don't know, junior high, high school, and on?
It's always been there. I've had times in my life where I've been playing less and playing more. Anytime, I would say, all the way through my college years and everything, every time a Pokemon game came out, I would drop everything to at least play the Pokemon game. Same with Animal Crossing. I have just a stupid amount of hours in every single Animal Crossing game except New Horizons. I mean, I have always been playing video games, but there's definitely times in my life where I'm only playing kind of one slowly in the background kind of thing. And then of course, now that it's a huge part of my life, both like professionally and personally, I don't really have those moments anymore.
Yes.
But I did certainly, as a teenager, sometimes other things become more important, boys and your studies and stuff like that.
Yeah, more like casual periods of gaming and so on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember moments like that in my life now. Do you, like, looking back at some of those periods, what was the thing that got you back in for good? Was it what you discussed earlier about moving to college and getting a job at the retro store?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it. I just started being around video games every day, and especially being around games that I had either never heard of or like had heard that they were important but had never actually played myself. And that was kind of, I don't think I've really had a super slow period since then.
Yes. Do you remember some of those games or systems that stood out to you from that time that you finally were getting to, or those games you had mentioned that you'd heard were important?
So I moved up here, I was in my college dorm, and I was like, I need a little TV in my room so I can play some of these old games. So I bought, for $10, I bought a 10-inch CRT on Craigslist, back when you could still buy CRTs on Craigslist for no money. And because I was just in college and I didn't have a car or anything, I met this lady. There's like a shopping outdoor shopping mall that is at the very bottom of a giant hill from the University of Washington, where I went to school. I did not think about this. I ended up having to walk this CRT up this giant hill all the way back to my dorm.
Oh my gosh.
Which was miserable. I mean, it's not a big TV, but it was very heavy. And yeah, the first things I bought were a Sega Genesis and a Super Nintendo.
Wow.
And I played a lot of the some might scoff at these being Genesis classics, but they were the ones that I had heard of, things like Echo the Dolphin and Toe Jam and Earl and things like that. And then I actually was lucky enough to get a copy of Earthbound while I was in college too.
Wow.
Someone was, I think it was like on Reddit or something, someone was trying to sell their collection quickly, and I had no money at the time, and I offered them like $50 for their Earthbound, which is, even at the time, was a super lowball offer. But I explained I was in college and everything, and they believed me. I really was in college and I was broke, but like, you should never believe anyone on the internet that says that, trying to.
You were the one exception.
Yeah. So I got my copy of Earthbound for $50, and I played all the way through it on a tiny CRT in a college dorm, and and that was really cool. I was like, by that point in my life, I really did love RPGs, but I hadn't really played a lot of the older classics. Mm-hmm. So going back to that and to like Final Fantasy 4/2, however you look at it, it was those were really cool. And Chrono Trigger, of course, although I played that on the DS because I could not afford the the Super Nintendo version.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that was really cool for me just to start playing some of the classics. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to play catch up on the classics while hundreds more classics release every year.
Yeah.
So, I think no one can ever play all of the important video games at this point, but I got a decent crash course when I was in college.
That's great. Yeah, it's very much Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill. Is us trying to revisit games all the classics that we never got to. I love hearing that. You were talking about RPGs a little bit too. Is that a genre that you really care about? Are there genres in general that you find yourself drawn to?
Yeah, I play a lot of JRPGs. I think starting with seeing my cousin playing Final Fantasy IX on the PS1 a long time ago. Final Fantasy X, I think, was the one that really blew my mind.
Oh, cool.
By that time, I did have a subscription to Game Informer magazine, and I very specifically remember there being some article about it and showing they had a picture where they were describing that you could see individual hairs, and I was like, this is it. Oh my God, video games will never get better than this. Actually, I didn't even play Final Fantasy X all the way through until I was probably 23 or 24, but it was definitely a game that I thought looked really cool for a very long time. I got really into the Persona series, starting with Persona 3.
Oh, cool.
The Xenoblade series is a really near and dear one to me. I've played many Final Fantasies, but not all of them. And I'm looking around at my collection, trying to catch a glimpse of
very impressive behind you, by the way, for the video viewers.
Thank you. I don't ever add to it anymore because it's full. But
yes, yeah.
But it looks nice. So I started playing a lot of JRPGs, and it's still one of my favorite genres. I really only have time for a couple of them a year if I want to play literally anything else. But yeah.
Awesome. Great. I have a couple more questions for you before we close out this segment. Well, the first, I'm actually cheating. I have one more on JRPGs. Do you have a favorite that you've played this year that was new?
A JRPG?
Yeah.
Well, an FRPG, Expedition 33,
was
probably my favorite this year. I don't know if it would count as a JRPG. I think it's probably somewhere in between a JRPG and a visual novel, but I really liked 100 Line Army, the one that's
something Academy.
Last Defense Academy.
Yes,
100 Line Army. I can never remember the full name of that, and I put 70-80 hours into that game.
Wow.
And then everything else I've played this year I haven't finished. I'm really enjoying the Trails in the Sky remake.
Oh yeah,
the first chapter, but I still have only gotten 6 or 7 hours in, and need to go back to that. Was the Suikoden remake was this year too, right? I played a pretty good amount of that one. But yeah, it's been a tough year for me finishing JRPGs.
Yeah. It's a kind of, to me, as a genre I really love too, feels like a notoriously difficult style of game to finish, especially because they can be so long, even if I'm
just so long.
Adoring one. I think it took me, Chrono Trigger, one of my top probably 15 games ever, I finally beat about 3 years ago, and that was maybe my 8th time starting it. And I'm glad that's not even a hard one to finish.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of, you can find yourself accidentally going in a lot of wrong directions in that game, I guess. So
yeah. I'll take that.
Yeah.
The last two things I wanted to ask you outside of that tangent that I just took us on was, have you had any big surprises video game wise in the last maybe 5 years or so of your life, like a game or a genre you maybe didn't expect to grab you that did?
Ooh, that's a great question. I will say that I have finally accepted that I do like roguelikes. I said for a very long time that I don't like roguelikes, and that's just not true. I now, it's now, for a while it was like, oh, this one's an exception. This is just a really good one.
Sure.
So that's why I like it. But no, it turns out I like a lot of them. So probably that.
Nice.
I've been just playing more types of games, mostly just through MinnMax, because it is a very encouraging environment to try to branch out a little bit. I mean, being in games media, you obviously get more codes and stuff, so something that I'm not sure I'm going to like at all, I feel a little more comfortable being like, okay, well, I can try it because there's no harm. I'm not going to spend $60 on it or $20 or whatever. I can just try this out. And yeah, learning somewhat interesting things about myself and my tastes by doing that. So
that's great. Yeah, seems like a great opportunity to branch out a little bit, I guess. And then the last question I have for you is, what is a game that you have your eye on playing that you haven't gotten to yet? This could be something in your backlog or a game that's unreleased that you're really excited about.
Ooh, that's a great question. There's so many from this year I still need to get around to. The shortest and easiest one that I keep putting off for some reason is Despelote, which several people have recommended and have said is incredible, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And I think it's literally like a 6-hour game or something like that, if that. I think it'll probably take me 1 or 2 evenings to do, but I know that one's really good. I know I'm going to like it. I love narrative-based games like that. But haven't gotten around to it yet. Yeah,
that game is so striking visually. I actually played an early version of it at Day of the Devs about almost 2 years ago at this point. It was like December 23 maybe, and immediately as you're walking by all these booths, and so many games stick out there. There's so many amazing titles that get shown. That one immediately just really stood out. So I've been glad to hear that people are really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Well, before we head to break, is there any title in your history or anything you haven't touched that you're like, if I leave this segment and don't mention this, I will be so bummed?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think we can go.
Awesome. Great. Well, it's been so fun hearing from you already and talking to you about games, but we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll finally get into all things Animal Crossing Wild World, so I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game. Connor McCabe returning to the mic with my guest, Kelsey Lewin. Kelsey, welcome back.
Thank you.
Finally, we're going to do it. We're going to discuss Animal Crossing Wild World, the game that you brought on today. I feel like the last 2 times I've said wild, it's sort of come out as world. World. I'm almost sounding like an Animal Crossing character when I say that. We're going to start by giving out a little history and context of this game for the listener, just in case they're not familiar with this particular entry, and then we'll dive into your history. But I'm going to just start talking, but if you want to jump in at any point, feel free. You've got the green light. I also may pause and just turn to you too. Otherwise, I'm just going to monologue about this game. What do you think?
Great. Let's
go. Here I go. Animal Crossing Wild World is a 2005 social simulation game developed and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo DS. It's a sequel to Animal Crossing for the GameCube, and depending on how you look at it, either the second or third installment in the series. You kind of talked about this earlier previewing the game. Let's touch on this right now. Technically, there was a game, was it released for the N64 disk drive?
No, so, okay. This is some weird history, but the reason you think that is because that is where it started development. And it started development as a completely separate game. It was the same, directors and everything, but they were really interested in creating a game that was this kind of like living, breathing world where like when one person would enter, there would basically be like traces of whatever they did that day when the next person entered. So it came from, a bunch of things, but a couple of the things was that Katsuya Gucci was getting home late all the time. That's one of the directors. he was getting home late all the time, so he couldn't play games with his kids and his wife, and he really wanted to. And also, he was playing a lot of Diablo, and he really liked in Diablo when, like, you would fail something, you'd be like, okay, I gotta get some friends, and we gotta go back into this dungeon, and we gotta go pick up my loot that I dropped, and the loot still stays there and everything. So he loved this idea, and so the first thing that they started working on was a lot closer to like a dungeon crawler kind of game. So it still had animals in it, but the animals were more like tools that you would use, and they would, there would be like a wolf at night and birds in the morning and stuff like that, and this kind of like day-night cycle where you'd be able to use different things at different times of the day, and you might need to wait until someone else logged into your file at night when you couldn't play and would use the wolf to get you past an obstacle or something like that, right? And this was the game they started with. And then, I don't know how much you know about the 64 disk drive, but it did not do very well, and it was very clear early on that it was not going to do well. And so Nintendo started ordering everything off the disk drive. Like, basically every game was in development for the disk drive, and they were like, actually make all of these regular N64 games. So they looked at this and they're like, well, this game doesn't work even a little bit anymore because we needed a lot of those functions that the disk drive provided, and we also need like 4 times the space that a Nintendo 64 cartridge has. So they're like, okay, well, what are our like have-to-haves in this game? And it came back down to that like persistent world, that like, okay, when I leave, whatever I did there stays on the cartridge and the next person can see it. So like planting a flower or something like that, right? And then they still wanted that real-time clock thing. They still wanted a day and night, and for it to be tied to a real day and night. And eventually, I'm going to yada, yada, yada a lot of development history, but eventually this becomes Animal Crossing, a totally different game that has no combat in it and is a lot more about community building and communication and all the stuff that they thought was kind of like at the core, the most important part about this original game that they had been building. And so this game came out on the Nintendo 64, Dobutsu no Mori, or Animal Forest in Japan. And it's missing a lot of stuff that you would probably recognize from the first Animal Crossing we got here in the States, which is on the GameCube. There's no museum. There's no, there is still fossils, but there's no museum. There's no place to, like, you can just have them in your house.
Blather's Erasure, I guess.
Yeah, no Blathers. Blathers didn't exist yet. Tortimer didn't exist yet, the mayor.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was missing several features, but still a very cute game, still a very fun game. Obviously started off on kind of a weird foot because everyone was like, what the heck is this? This is not like other games we've seen before, but eventually became very, very popular. But this was towards the end of the Nintendo 64's life cycle, so rather than making more expensive cartridges, kind of in this end period of its life, they're like, well, the GameCube's coming out, why don't we just make it a little better and put it on the GameCube? And so that's what they did. And they added some of those features like the museum and all of that. Things that, at least according to some of the developers, they had always wanted to do, and they just either ran out of time or ran out of space on the Nintendo 64 cartridge. So that came out in Japan, kind of in the middle of all of this. Nintendo always sends whatever they're working on to the people in the US to be like, is this anything? Do you guys want this here? And the way they've described it is like they kind of almost sent Animal Crossing over as like a joke. They were like, we know you're not going to want this weird game. This thing, like, this is way too weird, way too Japanese. No one's going to want this. But the folks at Nintendo of America were like, we love this. Please, can we do this? Can we please localize this? And they were like, no, you guys don't understand. This is going to take forever. Americans are not going to understand this. Why would you want to do this? So they had to really fight for it. But eventually they were able to convince them, and they... the GameCube version that we got here is still a little bit... It's such a weird thing. You have the Nintendo 64 version in Japan. Then you have the first GameCube version in Japan, which is called Dobutsu no Mori Plus. Then from that version, they added and tweaked a couple of things, and then released it in America as Animal Crossing. And then they liked the changes they had put in the US one so much in Japan, they were like, well, why don't we do this. It had like e-reader functionality and some other little things like that because that was happening at the time. And they're like, well, why don't we put it back in Japan with the e-reader functionality with some of this other stuff? They even, again, added a few more things. There were some like exclusive villager cards, and there were also you know how in the 3DS Animal Crossing New Leaf you could like get some outside furniture, like it was very specific, but it would just be like, oh, someone says we'd like a flower clock, and then you can put a flower clock or a lighthouse or something like that.
Okay.
You had like a small amount of outdoor furniture you could put outside in that, which again would not return until the 3DS game. Yeah. They called that one Dobutsu no Mori E+. So yes, they sold the same game to Japan with minor tweaks every time, 3 times.
Wow.
And they also did some like buyback stuff too. They were like, if you've already bought Animal Crossing, we'll move your file over to this new game and you can get a discount on the next game. Because I think they knew they were being kind of crappy with that, selling the nearly exact same game 3 times within a not very long span. I think like 3 or 4 years, maybe 4.5 years. But yeah, people in Japan bought it 3 times, which is wild.
That's unreal. It's reminiscent in some very small ways about the original, I guess, Pokemon releases of Red and Green, and then becoming Red and Blue, and then Yellow as well.
Totally.
Very interesting. But thank you. That was amazing history that I didn't expect. But that kind of catches us up to the GameCube version being the first or second, and this game, Wild World,
or fourth or third or fourth.
Exactly.
I mean, like, it really depends on how much you want to call these things separate games. I think of them as all one game.
Yes.
They're all one game with like little tweaks. But depending on how you think of it, Wild World is either the second or the third or the fourth or fifth.
And I guess regardless, it's the first handheld one, no matter what. So we have that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The game was kind of like the previous, at least the GameCube version that was out, was able to sync to the DS's system calendar and clock, giving the world the ability to match the season, day, and time of the real world, assuming you actually had the correct date and time in there, which you can,
ethics
of course,
of time traveling. Yeah.
Yeah, truly. Wild World, like the games before, this is some very basic information about it, allows the player to become a resident of a village and interact with its inhabitants, anthropomorphic animals, each with their own personalities. It had many similarities to the GameCube release, but a few key differences that made it very distinct. The one I included here, which comes to mind, there's actually 2. There's like a visual thing, but of course the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection being a huge deal for this game.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that on the box, that it had the Wi-Fi capability. And the second thing for me is, at least visually, there's many differences, but was how the world sort of rolled as you walked on it compared to the original game. It was really a top-down view.
Yeah, it was. What's funny is the original one is also on a big roll like that. It's just stretched out further, so it doesn't look so roll-y. But it is really laid out the same way, weirdly.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. But I'm sure there's many more differences that we could talk about with this game. Are there any you feel like are important including in the context while we're here?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the biggest one is the Wi-Fi. I mean, that's what spurred everything we're going to get into, which was my life both in and outside of this game. But also, this one started giving the sort of the little breadcrumbs of creativity beyond what the first game had done. So, you could design your clothes and stuff in the first game, but anything you designed on your shirt also went on your hat.
Yes.
And you could put a sign on your door with one of your designs, and you could put a little signpost in town with one of your designs. This one just let you drop it on the floor, on the ground. So you could create pathways or whatever you wanted to and put it on the ground in your town here. And that was kind of like a big... it was a totally different way, I think, that some people were able to engage with that game. It became a little bit... I still think this game was very good at the making you part of a community part of Animal Crossing, that it was so good at that time, but it did give you a little bit more control over how your surroundings looked. Like, if you really wanted to, I had some friends who, like, turned their whole town into, like, a water world looking thing. Like, they made tiles that looked like water and just made all of the houses look like they were floating on water. And you could totally do that in this game. And that was that was a really different looking game visually than the other one. But there were other just fun little hangout spots that I think all stem from that Wi-Fi connection. You've got the coffee shop downstairs in the museum this time, which was kind of like the hangout spot. You have an observatory above in the museum, which gives you something to look at on your top screen. You can, make constellations in the sky. I think the way they did the two screens in this game is so interesting, because rather than just having the inventory up at all times like you would think they would do for something like that, unless you pull up the inventory, your top screen's just sky.
Yes.
It's just the sky. And I think that's so lovely.
I revisited this game last summer. I think I played it like 2 months straight on my original DS. I love this one. This is probably my personal favorite if I had to pick one, even though it's not the one that like I experienced a ton as a kid. And I won't get on a tangent too long about me, because we're here to talk about you, but about the sky, I love walking around and then hearing a little like breeze or a whistle and seeing something like a present or something that you could shoot down. I just love how they use that second screen feature here.
I loved it. I love it so much. I think there's a lot of ways they could have done that made more video game sense, but wouldn't have been right for Animal Crossing. And I think that they nailed it with that.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for including a few distinct differences. This is some more context about the game. It received critical acclaim upon release, was overall the 9th best-selling title on the Nintendo DS family of systems, not 3DS, but all the DS systems before it, with, as of March 2016, 11.75 million copies that were sold. It was re-released on the Wii U Virtual Console in October of that same year that number was reported, and is considered to be one of the best games on the console and just a classic in the series. As far as context, Kelsey, is there anything else that you want to include before we dive into your personal history with the game?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I'm sure plenty will just come up as we're talking about it too. When it comes to your discovery of this title, how did that happen? Did you play the original? And I
did.
Okay, great. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, I played the original Animal Crossing a lot. I really loved it. It was a very classic, I saw it on the shelf and thought the cover looked really cool kind of situation. And it was one of those, like, asked for it for Christmas and got it for Christmas situations. And just, that was, I mean, I had never read anything about it. I just really liked the way that cover looked. And so, yeah, then, by that time, like I said, I had a Game Informer subscription and stuff, and I mean, I was just a little bit more in the know about what was going on with video games, so I did know that Wild World was coming out, and I knew that, I needed a DS, and I needed Animal Crossing Wild World because I loved the original so much.
Yes. Okay, great. I love that catches us up. So, do you remember when you got the game? Was that, like, roughly around its release or afterwards?
It must have been a little bit after the release, just because I didn't really get like big video game presents unless it was a birthday or Christmas or something like that. I got one of those original chunky DSs, and I got a copy of that game and a couple of other games, and I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was probably, somewhat close, like within the same year it came out, but certainly not like on day one or anything.
Gotcha. What color DS did you have?
I had a silver one, and my brother had a blue one.
Okay,
it was just that original, the original chunky one.
Yes, I still really love mine, even though it's not the most pretty looking system. It still holds like a special place.
The DS Lite is so much better.
It really is. Well, when it comes to the game, looking back at early days of playing it for you, what still stands out to this day, like when you think about the early times?
I think it really is just how well it did the connectivity. It's funny because I don't think Wild World holds up quite as well anymore as it once did because of that. It really was, they put a lot of thought, I feel like, into the multiplayer, and not that you would really do anything of real substance when you were bringing people over into your towns and stuff, but it was new. I mean, the original game, all you could do was like visit someone's phantom town while they weren't there. There was no like simultaneous multiplayer because they couldn't do that. But so for this one, just the simultaneous multiplayer was really huge. But other than that, I mean, we're still in an era where all of these villagers have a lot of personality, and they're not always the nicest to you, like they are in the current games. And so yeah, just a combo of that online connectivity and just there being so many places. Like it was literally a smaller town. It had less villagers in it. It had kind of less of everything to fit on the DS. But it felt a little bit more considered in its like hangout spots. Just having that coffee shop with multiple bar stools that everyone could sit on and things like that, like felt really novel at the time.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you remember who you were playing this with, if you were connecting with people?
Mostly strangers on the internet. So, the reason this game is so special to me is because I, at the time, and I really wish I remember how I found this website in the first place, but I found a website called nookbay.com, which was on the front end was just eBay for Animal Crossing.
Okay.
And it's a fascinating concept because you can't actually exchange the money, like, through a website. Obviously each person has their own DS cartridge, so you're essentially like making a deal on this website through an eBay looking, it's like a bidding feature, or there's buy it nows and everything, but essentially all that is just a handshake. Like, after that, you have to connect with the seller or the buyer, and you have to give each other your friend codes, and you have to arrange a time to meet up and drop the money and drop the item and make that swap. So it's like extremely, very like analog, not very trustworthy type of thing. A lot of Scout's honor
to make a deal happen.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting that I actually think, the Animal Crossing community was pretty good overall. Wow. I mean, there was a lot of... you'd get your account banned and stuff if someone reported you as not doing what you're supposed to do. So there's a lot of, there was definitely some scammers and stuff, but I found that website. But on the other side of the website it had a forum, as all sites had in that day, and an IRC, so like a live chat, and a forum. And I just started being really active on these forums, really active in the chats, and eventually they were looking for moderators, and I lied about my age, and I got a moderating quote-unquote job. I had very funny logic as a child. I was in, and this is funny in two ways because I'm actually terrible at math, but I was very good at like the math you take when you're 13 years old.
Yes.
Like that kind of stuff. So I was 2 years ahead in math. They had, like an advanced math program or whatever. And I was like, okay, I can say I'm 2 years older on the internet because I know the math that they'd be taking 2 years old. Like, it's
justifying
the dumbest kid logic. Yes, yeah, that was my kid logic. I was like, they'll never catch me because I know the math.
That's so funny. My
pre-algebra or whatever.
Perfect.
Yeah, like, they'll never catch me. As far as I know, they never did. But also, I mean, what would it have mattered?
Sure.
So I became a moderator on nookpay.com and spent all of my afternoons doing that. I mean, I would log on after school on days I didn't have Girl Scouts or whatever other thing I was doing, and I would be on the IRCs and I would be on the forums. And so a lot of who I played with were just people that I was meeting in these chats. And I really wanted to, in the spirit of the game, I was like, I really want my house in this game to be like a hangout spot. Like, I want it to look like a little restaurant and a little coffee shop and stuff like that. And these places that like I might be hanging out with my friends in real life if I were a cool adult or whatever. So I spent a lot of time like trying to make my town really welcoming as a hangout spot for ultimately just a bunch of teenagers to whack each other with nets. Like, it wasn't, it's still Animal Crossing at the end of the day. But yeah, that was, that's what took up so much of my life with this game and why I have 1,000+ hours in it.
Yes, your DDR time became moderating time.
Yeah.
Gosh, just trade one for the other. That's amazing. Do you remember getting into that gig, I guess, and anything that like when you look back, was it fun? Was it scary? Was it hard? What sticks out to you?
I remember mostly really loving it, but also like having, stress that I think someone who's 13 years old or whatever is not really ready for, which is, just moderation problems in general, things I had never thought about and was not equipped to handle because, let's be honest, I wanted to be a moderator because I wanted to be cool because I was 13 years old. Like, that's not, I wasn't, I don't think I was the smartest person there by any stretch of the imagination. So, but I did really enjoy it. I think there were probably some bad moments, but I don't really remember them. I really just remember the that it was fun and that I felt cool.
So it was less the responsibility you were seeking and just the social cash. That makes so much sense.
Totally, yeah. And I wasn't a super cool kid around that time of my life. So,
but on Nook Bay.
But on Nook Bay, I was very cool, and people wanted to go to my town. So.
That's awesome. What were like little day-to-day things you would have to do as a moderator on this website?
I was mostly moderating in the IRC, so I was just like banning people as they said bad words or threatening things or whatever, but I was basically just hanging out. I was just kind of like a person who hung out and talked until there was someone to kick out. But again, because I was 13, I would sometimes like kick out my friends for fun and then put them back in and be like, haha, I can do this to you. Yes.
That's amazing. You're like, don't snitch on me, friends. Gosh, that's amazing. Do you have any, I know I'm sure you have so many broad feelings and memories about this time and moderating and playing the game. Do you have any specific memories or of like people visiting your town or you visiting someone's town or even just how you designed things in your game?
Yeah, I definitely, I had many nights where I like someone would basically be the host for the night of, groups of people or whatever. And especially people on this, the faster moving IRC chat would be, someone would just pop in and be like, anyone want to come to my town? Or anyone got their town gates open? And is it cool if I come hang out? And so, lots and lots of times where I was just like, okay, I'm going to play the host for tonight. Anyone who wants to come to my town, gates are open. Come on in. I spent a lot of time trying to make a really cool hangout spot. So I was definitely trying to I remember my main floor I was trying to make into the perfect coffee shop.
Wow.
Even though there was already a coffee shop in the game, but I wanted my own.
Now your town has two.
Yeah. Now it's like a whole city. It's got 2 coffee shops.
Yes.
And so I remember spending a lot of time designing the like menu signboard to make it look like a real coffee shop signboard. And just, being very thoughtful about like the music I was playing in there. And for some reason, I really wanted they had lots of different like music player furniture. For some reason, I always thought the jukebox was the best fit. Looking back, I don't think I've ever been to a coffee shop with a jukebox. But
sure.
When I was 13, that's what I thought coffee shops had, were jukeboxes. So yeah, I spent a lot of time on that. I remember was it my left side of my house? Maybe one of my rooms was I was trying to turn into a Mexican restaurant.
Oh.
Which again was, these are not super easy things to do in the game at that time because the furniture was still fairly limited.
Sure.
But I really loved making patterns and trying to find the creative uses for the patterns. So I had my my taco menu and the little sign and everything, and tried to put together what I thought looked like a Mexican restaurant. But again, yeah, I would host people, have them over, and we would just sit in these rooms and run around and talk.
Were you using the chat and playing rather than could you put a little text bubble above your head in that one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes I would do that, but honestly, because we were all getting there from Nook Bay, we would usually just break out into a separate room in the IRC and just type in there because it was easier.
Yeah.
So much DS
less
keyboard leaves much to be desired. So yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. That's wonderful. You talking about designing your house and wanting to have the coffee shop and the Mexican restaurant just is bringing me back to anytime you really start an Animal Crossing game and you just have the one room, and going from that going from that one room and expanding your house, and then once you get a separate room, all the possibilities that you have of wow, wait, this just doesn't have to be a living room anymore. That could be X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, this can be anything. And I've always loved Animal Crossing for rooms that are not normal house rooms. I very rarely make a room in Animal Crossing that you would find in a normal house. I like making little businesses and little offices and stuff like that.
I feel like I was so often the opposite, where I was like, this is my film room, where there's my computer where I edit at, here's the camera, that's the TV we watch footage back on, as opposed to thinking outside the box like you may have done.
I mean, I still think that's still more that's still different than a bedroom, which I think is kind of the standard thing, is okay, where do I put the bed, where do I put the dresser? So you're coming up with a function for the room. You
know what? I'll take it. And the next time I start a town, it's going to be even more creative. We've gotten so many great details from you about the game and the context. When it comes to this time in your life when you were, I guess you were 13, moderating on Nook Bay, does anything else stick out from your life at that time, whether it be other hobbies you were up to, friends you hung out with, events that you feel like sharing about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason this cross-section is so important to me was because this was probably my peak of uncool. This was definitely around the time I was at my least, socially acceptable at school kind of thing. I was really I had a cousin who was very goth, and I wanted to be just like her. And so I also wanted to be very goth, but because I'm 13 and don't have a lot of, free money and time with which to build a goth wardrobe around, I can't dye my hair black and everything. It was very much just I'm pairing my black shirt with my black pants. I would, beg to go to Hot Topic and get some more goth staples, which my mom was not thrilled about. Hot Topic had started selling shirts with anime characters and stuff on it, so I had my Inuyasha shirt and my Full Metal Alchemist shirt and stuff, and was I was just deeply uncool. I was very I was not popular, and so I think that was something that really drew me to Wild World so much at this time. Was I was really burying myself into this social life that I had created, both inside my town and also with all of the people I was meeting on these forums, where it didn't really matter what I was wearing or what I was into. I was just kind of creating a cool experience for people to hang out in, and when you're talking in a chat or on a forum or whatever, no one knows what you look like, no one knows how old you are, they just are taking you at face value. And so I think that was really important for me. I was also playing a lot of Neopets at the time.
All right.
It was another big part of my life. So yeah, I think this kind of 11 to 13, maybe even 14 a little bit, I really gravitated towards community-based things, probably because I just didn't feel like I belonged in the community I was currently in the middle
Sure.
of Texas as a budding goth kid.
Yes. That makes so much sense. How long did you continue this as a moderator at Nook Bay? Do you remember like why you eventually stepped away from it?
No, I wish I did. I'm sure I just got busy, and I remember that I came back for a little bit as City Folk was coming out on the
cool.
Wii. And that was the site kind of started dying around that time and shut down a little after City Folk had come out. It was around for a while doing the same like eBay style stuff with City Folk for a little bit. And then, yeah, I mean, it was being run, if I recall correctly, it was being run by like a teacher named Jess and her husband. And I'm sure they started the site when they were like 22.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, which was so old to me at the time. But like, when you think about it, like how much money does a 22-year-old have, especially a teacher, to keep up the servers
Yeah.
and the website for a game that, you know, is certainly popular, but like there were other Animal Crossing forums. There was the Beltree forums. There was ACCC, Animal Crossing Community.com. There was oh gosh, what was the other one? This is gonna bug me. I'll come up with it later. But those were other ones that I like dabbled in a little bit, but because I wasn't the cool girl in that one, I wasn't a moderator, so I mostly stuck to the one where I was.
Yes. Great. Yeah. That's. I was just wondering if you had like where that trail ended for you. Did you find like this might be a little personal, and feel free to answer as much or as little as you'd like. But was there a time where you started to feel outside, you know, in the real world or in your life, outside of the game and that website, accepted, or like that you had your little social group?
Yeah. It's lame, but it's when I got a boyfriend for basically the first time. You know, I went to like a summer camp and I met a guy who was a year older than me, which is, you know, the coolest thing ever when you're 13 years old. Yes. Or whatever. And he listened to cool music, and I think it was that I started gaining. I mean, it took me a long time before I had real confidence, but I think that was sort of the beginning of like, you know, I started being interested in boys and being interested in just not wearing all of my interests on my sleeve so hard and toning it down a little bit, you know? Yeah, I don't know if there was like the moment that it happened, but I think that was probably where things started changing. Yeah.
Okay, great. Are there any details, as we sort of maybe hit the tail end of the conversation, are there any details about Wild World specifically, or the context that we've been talking about, that you'd like to bring up while we're still here?
Good question. I think, I mean, there's a couple just other things about Wild World that I think made it more exciting for me and for a lot of people, just as people who had come from the original game. You know, things like hybrid flowers were like a new thing that are, you know, you could plant a white tulip and a red tulip next to each other, and then a pink tulip might happen. And then if you had a bunch of pink tulips, that meant you worked really hard on your town, and you know, like, so it was things like that. They did a lot of things where basically everything in Animal Crossing is just a little like effort trophy at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Everything you can possibly have and show off in that game is just, you know, none of it does anything. None of it like gives you a secret ending or an extra level or anything, you know, like it doesn't, there's no like means to an end kind of thing. Sure. It's just if it's something that you want to pursue and find joy in pursuing.
Yeah, it's not like you get, you got the bike. Now you can ride your bike around town.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the closest thing to that was, you know, in the first game, if you pay off your loan, they like build a little statue to you. You know, it's like, it's things like that. And it's those don't do anything. They're just trophies. And so this game really started pushing that further, in a way that I just think was really neat and really cool for someone who just wanted something to throw themselves at, but that they could also show off more than just like, look, I completed my Pokedex. Like if I did really well at designing my town, other people would have a better time playing Animal Crossing too, because they'd be coming over to my town and having a good time and enjoying themselves. And I love that. I love that whole design.
Yeah. Do you remember the last time you revisited this game?
I am so bummed. I was so sure that I still had my old copy. I do not. I have a copy.
Yes.
It's not my old copy. And I now remember, because it had been a while since I had thought about it. Back when Club Nintendo was a good service, you could they had an Animal Crossing Wild World DS cartridge case, and it held like 9 cartridges and
cool.
6 styluses or something like that. And I got that, and I had my Animal Crossing copy in there, and it is gone.
No.
And I think it was that and like 2 of my Pokemon games, and it
ran away one day.
I have no idea. Like it could have been. I know it was not within the last 5 years. It was longer ago than that, because I noticed this during a move several years ago. But yeah, there's like a whole decade span where it could have gone missing, and I have no idea where in that decade it went missing.
Okay, so, yeah. Oh, always heartbreaking.
I would have totally showed
that.
you. I would have, like, I was, yeah, I think that would be so cool. That is among my biggest regrets, is not having access to that anymore, because of the sheer amount of time that I put into that game and the sheer amount of effort. And I mentioned earlier that you could like put little pathways on the ground and everything. I don't even remember what my last one was, because I genuinely changed it up several times. I know that probably the coolest one I ever did was I tried to do a candy theme, like a Candyland kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like, little peppermint steps, and like it would look like little, you're walking on little marshmallows and whipped cream and stuff and sprinkles, and it was super cool. And I don't think I came up with that concept. I think someone else did, and I copied it, but it was really cool.
Yes.
But I did that, and I did some like more generic, just a very nice walkway lined with flowers kind of stuff. So.
Sure.
I'm so sad that stuff's gone.
Yeah. Oh, and
if anyone ever picks up a cartridge and it's probably not even Kelsey. And I remember the town name was Cran.
Like a
Crayola
tool?
Cran, yeah. But it was probably my name was probably my username at the time, which is a very edgy and very cool. It was Chaotic.
Oh, wow.
So,
and
I know.
Were there any capital letters in there where there shouldn't be? Like an A?
No, it was all, it was probably all lowercase.
Sure.
At some point in my life, I decided that capital letters weren't cool. I don't know.
Gosh, that's great. Well, yeah, so someone out there, keep an eye out if you find it. DS, this is a little off topic, but not really. DS cartridges, do they have a little battery in them that will eventually
No batteries, but most of it's flash memory, and flash memory is not built for a lifetime. So
someday it'll go anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, it will go in an even worse way, which is just there'll be no data on it at all.
Oh,
game just won't
game
work.
Gone.
No game anymore.
That's worse than replacing like a Game Boy cartridge battery.
Yeah, turn on your DS games every once in a while if you can. That keeps them alive longer.
Oh, wow.
Is my understanding. I am not an electrical engineer, but my understanding is if you turn them on every once in a while, you can delay that for a while.
Yes.
I hope that a lot of them are much hardier than they are led to believe, but
fingers crossed.
We'll see.
I've heard the same thing about the Wii U recently, so now I've been kind of using it, but now I'm sure to every few months if I'm not turn that thing on, because there's also so few of those that might be hard to find if it goes.
Yeah. 3DS games are the same way, by the way, so DS and 3DS.
I think I've got some homework tonight. It's just turn all these on.
I know. It's a pain, but...
Sorry to take us on that tangent, but to close out this conversation on your experience with Wild World, would you do me a favor and just put a bow on it and wrap up the place that it held for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was my community when I was uncool in figuring out who I was as a person. And it introduced me to a bunch of people from a bunch of walks of life, some of whom I probably shouldn't have been talking to as a 13-year-old. But yeah, I think the cleanest way to say it is just that it was a real bright spot for me, a real community that I could immerse myself in when I didn't feel like I had a lot of community at the time. That's great. Well, we've got a couple fun things to do, but Kelsey, thanks so much for bringing this game on. This was awesome to hear from you. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad I got to gush about it. For the final two segments that we have for this podcast, the first of which is the Fact Me by Your Game segment, where I'm just going to share one fun fact with you about Wild World, which, again, you've written a book on the series. You probably know about this, but this was news to me. I have this titled, You Reap What You Sow, and this has all to do with seeds in Animal Crossing Wild World. I didn't even talk about this. Yes. Oh, this is good. So this fact I learned from watching the Animal Crossing Did You Know Gaming video, which is like 8 years old. So I'll have a link in the citation section in the show notes for anyone who wants to watch it. It's fun. It's a fun watch. But I'll dive into it, unless you want to just share about it yourself, since it sounds like you know what seeds are. Yeah, I probably should have mentioned this as part of my moderating thing, because this definitely did come up. There was some very malicious stuff you could do in Wild World, which sometimes people did, which was, it's been long enough that I don't really remember how the tech works now. But essentially there were, through like action replays and other hacking software, you could add things to your inventory that you were never supposed to be able to have in your inventory, and drop them in ways you were never supposed to be able to drop them. So an example would be like an entire building that you could put in your pocket, and you'd drop it and it wouldn't show anything, and it would be like, it would just show the animation and nothing happened. But then you leave, you go into a building and come back out, or reload in any way, and there is now a building in front of your house. You can no longer go in your house. Your game is soft locked. It was bad. It was completely ruining some people's saves, because if you did it over the Wi-Fi, it would save before and after you left someone's town. So yes, this was a huge problem that I'm surprised I neglected to talk about, because it was a big deal. We just had a mostly pretty good community. I think we were pretty good at vetting people, but I mean, I'm shocked that nobody ever did that to me. Yeah, like just personally dropped a bunch of buildings or whatever in your town and locking you out from that. Is that what you wanted to say about it? Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, and truly getting into the, of course people could just goof off in their own town and do what they want, but getting into the, sort of trolly or malicious nature of, you could just visit someone and drop that out of your inventory and ruin their town. So, I'm sure that it's so funny that I should have known you would be very aware of that. Not just because you're a historian, but because of the moderating you had to do with those communities. Because it was probably actually the biggest deal we had to deal with during that time. And I'm surprised I forgot to talk about that. Yeah, because while you can't steal from people's towns, you can leave stuff, I guess. Yes. Well, that, again, for the listener, a link to that Did You Know Gaming video will be in the show notes. But lastly, that'll lead us to our final segment, and that is the game recommendations. Now, Kelsey, this segment is one of my forced tie-in to the movie Call Me By Your Name, where I'm going to treat Animal Crossing Wild World like your passionate summer fling in Italy. But unfortunately, like the movie, that's not going to work out. So in order to help you get over the heartbreak of this, fling ending, I've got a couple of recommendations for you that all have a little something to tie into Animal Crossing today. A little something in common. The most important thing I need to know, though, is, are you ready to get back out there? I'm ready to get back out there. That's all I needed to hear. I have 3 for you today. The first of which is, if what you loved about this game is you love the community of animals, they're really doing it for you, but you're kind of craving some darkness, I'll recommend a little game called Cult of the Lamb. Just came out a few years ago. Do you know this game? Yeah, I still haven't played it, and I know I will love it. That's another answer for your what are you hoping you play that you haven't yet.
Yeah.
That's another good answer for that.
Yeah, so I guess just a darker take on the animal community and creating a cult. That's one option for you. If you happen to be a Nintendo DS diehard and you just want another classic on the system, but you want to change up the genre a little bit, I'll recommend Elite Beat Agents. Have you played this one?
Ooh, I love Elite Beat Agents. Yeah.
So much personality, so much fun. Obviously, a totally different game. It's like a rhythm. I mean, it is a rhythm game. Back to your DDR roots, I guess.
Yeah.
And one that I think, of course, you could make this somewhere else, but it's really fun using the DS and the touchpad for all the gestures. So, Elite Beat Agents is the second one. And lastly, as if for you, your big takeaway is it's Tom Nook. You just love Tom Nook, and you're just a freak for raccoons in general. I'll recommend Sly Cooper and the Thievis Raccoonus.
These are great and totally unexpected recommendations.
You know what? It's all I needed to hear today. Again, just to recap these, we have Cult of the Lamb, Elite Beat Agents, and Sly Cooper and the Thievis Raccoonus. That'll do it for the segment, and that'll bring us to the end of the show. So before we go and plug whatever we want on our way out, thank you so much for joining me today. This was awesome from hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You bet. You plugged some stuff up top. Would you like to plug those again at the end of the show?
Yeah, check out Pew Pew Bang podcast. That is also a slumber party. Also check out MinnMax, which is a great podcast I am on sometimes about video games, friends, and getting better. Also, great vibes on both of those. And then also, if you're in the Seattle area or the Las Vegas area, come check out my store, Pink Gorilla Games.
Awesome. I'll put a link to all of that in the show notes. I've definitely had friends who were like from Seattle or who go back and visit, and I can think of one friend in particular who always goes into your store. He just loves Pink Gorilla. So,
awesome.
I'll have to tell him that you were on. But I'll go ahead and just close this out with some plugs of my own. Again, all of the stuff that we've both plugged are in a link below, including the cover art for Call Me By Your Game, which is done by the artist Glenn J. You can find him and his other great work on his Instagram, and a link in the show notes. This show is produced, edited, and the original music that you hear throughout is done by Jeremy Schmidt. You can thank him for his contributions to this podcast by listening to his podcast, Video Games, a comedy show, wherever you get yours. You can follow Call Me By Your Game on YouTube. If you don't already, you can follow us on Blue Sky and Instagram as well. You can follow me on Blue Sky if you'd like to. And then lastly, is that if you're listening to this and you're like, I like the conversations that you have with people, Connor, I want to hear more podcasts that you might be on, check us out on Patreon over at patreon.com/super NPC Radio, where we have a bunch of bonus podcasts about video games from me and all the people who contribute to our network, including our Games Club, where we're currently covering Silksong in a week-by-week podcast. So if you're playing that game and you want to hear it as it airs every Friday, check out our Patreon or check out the free feed where that series airs in the future. Coincidentally, our BioShock series just ended on the free feed, and now when the original Hollow Knight is about to start airing. So if you want to check that out, check out the Super NPC Games Club free feed wherever you get your podcasts. But that'll do it for another episode of Call Me By Your Game. We will see you on the next one.